it's essentially a veto power. And yeah, this particular question has been debated uh, amongst conservatives and Christians over the last several months. Do we should the Senate, Republican majority, pass a rule change to essentially get rid of this buffer in order to pass this legislation? Should they leave it in place? I've heard arguments made. I am not familiar with all the ins and outs and the details essentially, but I've heard arguments made that there actually wouldn't be any rule changes required. Simply, really, it is just kind of up to, I believe, Senate leadership on the Republican side to, I guess there's some procedural things that they could do to enforce the talking filibuster, which is the kind of the old-fashioned traditional means of filibustering, which basically is, where senators will try to hold up a vote on a piece of legislation by just talking nonstop. If you
Corey, we're
ever,
calling you. Corey Booker,
yeah,
man.
Cory Booker, yeah, or if you ever seen the film
We
Mr.
need you.
Smith Goes to Washington,
Let's hear you talk for 24 hours. Unfortunately, right?
is that is what people on the right have been calling for, especially over the last few weeks. Is like, okay, we don't actually need to change the rules. Let's make the Democrats talk. Let's make them protest talk this vote until we wear them out and we pass the vote. Essentially, is kind of what has been advocated. Republican leadership in the Senate has not been willing to do that so far. And why that is a great question, especially when this issue is, I mean, being loudly demanded both by the president and by their constituencies. Um, and so there's kind of a lot of ongoing politics. You know, between the time of recording right here and when we publish this episode, things could have changed. Potentially, it seems like this is a very live conversation, especially when we consider, as we'll talk about in a few minutes, the Texas Senate race plays in here as well, because John Cornyn, incumbent senator from Texas, is, I believe, I'm off the top of my head, I'm not sure what role he plays, but he's close with Senate leadership in the Senate, and so there's some tug of war going on there to try to get Senate leadership to enforce the talking filibuster and try to get the Save America Act passed. So yeah, a lot of complicated political procedural things going on there. But kind of zooming out big picture, I think this is something that kind of on both ends, whether it's the the election security side of things, or the women's sports and transgender procedures provisions of this bill, all things I think all Christians should enthusiastically get behind. And really, I think are issues that actually do unify Americans across, even generally across political divides. I think, um, regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum, everyone wants fair elections. I mean, this is something that we've been talking about for a long time over the last, especially since the Trump era. I mean, there's been constant back and forth accusations of, meddling in the elections, and this has been an ongoing conversation. Obviously, that's probably, given where we are politically, that's probably going to continue. But at least, hey, we have these standard uniform guidelines for who gets to vote and how it gets to be done that minimize as much as possible the potential for fraud. I think that's something almost everybody can and should get behind. And then obviously, when it comes to protecting women's sports and protecting children from, essentially from these, just horrible mutilation procedures that have been undertaken in the name of this insane ideology of transgenderism and the like. Yeah, these are things that everyone should get behind, I think. And in reality, I think, yeah, obviously things Christians should get behind, and I think also the vast majority of Americans actually want. And so, yeah, it's something I think we should all pray that, the Lord would kind of move these procedural political blockers to get this through. And yeah, again, regardless of where you fall politically, I think these are all things we should want.